When 73-year-old Vivian stood in her living room surrounded by 40 years of memories, she had just 48 hours before the moving truck arrived. Her adult children lived across the country, and she was completely alone with decades of accumulation. What happened next shocked everyone, including herself. She didn't just clear her entire 3-bedroom home in 2 days, she actually felt liberated for the first time in years. The secret? 7 ruthless tricks that go against everything you've been told about decluttering. And the best part? Any senior can do this, even if you're overwhelmed, tired, or don't know where to start. I'm going to share Vivian's exact system because what she discovered changed everything about how seniors approach decluttering. You see, Vivian wasn't naturally organized. Quite the opposite. After her husband passed 2 years ago, their home became a museum of memories she couldn't bear to touch. Sound familiar? Here's what makes Vivian's story so powerful. She didn't spend months agonizing over every item like most decluttering advice suggests. Instead, she used 7 counterintuitive tricks that work specifically for seniors who are dealing with a lifetime of possessions, limited energy, and emotional attachments to their belongings. By the end of this video, you'll have the exact roadmap Vivian used. No fluff, no feel-good nonsense, just the raw truth about what actually works when you need results fast. But here's the thing that surprised me most about her approach. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by the thought of decluttering your entire home? Drop a comment and let me know your biggest challenge. I read every single one. The first trick Vivian used is called the Triage Method, and it's borrowed from emergency medicine. Just like doctors don't spend equal time on every patient, you can't spend equal time on every possession. This saved her from the analysis paralysis that had kept her stuck for 2 entire years. Here's how it works. Vivian divided everything into 3 brutal categories in just 15 minutes per room. Category 1, can't live without it. This includes medications, important documents, a few comfort items, and daily essentials. Think prescription bottles, birth certificates, and that 1 coffee mug you use every morning. Category 2, might need it someday. This is your danger zone because it's where most people get stuck forever. Category 3, haven't touched it in over a year. Automatic elimination, no exceptions, but here's the ruthless part that most people won't tell you. Category 2 gets treated like Category 3. Vivian learned that might need it someday is just fear talking, and fear will keep you surrounded by clutter forever. She gave herself permission to be wrong about a few items rather than stay trapped by indecision about everything. She started with her kitchen because it's the most logical space where necessity is obvious. In 15 minutes, she identified that she had 23 coffee mugs, but only drinks tea now. 3 complete sets of china she hadn't used since her daughter's wedding in 1987, and enough kitchen gadgets to stock a small restaurant. The triage was swift and merciless. Keep 2 favorite mugs, donate all the china sets, trash 90% of the gadgets, including that bread maker she'd used exactly twice in 10 years. The emotional breakthrough came when she realized that keeping everything just in case hadn't made her feel secure like she thought it would. It had made her feel trapped, anxious, and overwhelmed every time she opened a closet or drawer. Each room she triaged gave her more confidence to be even more ruthless with the next one. By room 3, she was actually excited to see how much she could eliminate. The living room triage revealed 47 decorative pillows when she only had seating for 6 people, 12 throw blankets for a woman who keeps her house at 75 degrees, and enough candles to illuminate a cathedral. Yet, she never burned candles because of safety concerns about leaving flames unattended. What's your biggest might need it someday category that's taking over your space? Kitchen gadgets? Clothes from different decades? Books you'll never reread? Share in the comments because recognizing your personal weakness is the first step to breaking free from the clutter cycle that's stealing your peace of mind. Vivian's second trick saved her from the exhaustion that kills most decluttering attempts before they even get started. She discovered something crucial. that most advice ignores. Seniors have about 10 minutes of emotional decision-making energy before mental fatigue sets in and everything becomes overwhelming. After that threshold, you start keeping everything, because deciding becomes too mentally exhausting to handle. So she set a timer for exactly 10 minutes per small area, and this is critical. Not per room, but per specific area. One closet shelf, one kitchen drawer, one bathroom cabinet. When that timer went off, she stopped immediately, even if she wasn't completely finished with that space. This single rule prevented the overwhelm that had paralyzed her for 2 solid years after her husband's death. Here's what made this strategy so devastatingly effective. In 10 minutes, you simply cannot overthink decisions. You're forced to trust your gut instincts, and your gut usually knows exactly what you really need versus what you're holding on to out of guilt, obligation, or irrational fear. The time pressure becomes your friend instead of your enemy. Vivian tackled her bedroom dresser first thing on day 1. Top drawer, 10 minutes to sort through decades of random accumulated items. She found expired medications from 1998, 17 pens that no longer worked, Christmas cards from people she barely remembered, instruction manuals for appliances she'd thrown away years ago, and enough loose buttons to start a craft store. In those focused 10 minutes, she filled an entire trash bag and found space she'd forgotten existed. The genius was in the stopping. By ending each session while she still had energy and mental clarity, she actually started looking forward to the next 10-minute session instead of dreading the overwhelming mountain of stuff. She turned decluttering from an impossible marathon into manageable sprints that felt achievable and even satisfying. But here's the part that shocked her. Those 10-minute sessions started adding up incredibly fast. By the end of day 1, she had completed 24 separate sessions. That's 4 solid hours of focused, productive decluttering without feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, or emotionally drained even once. She was energized instead of depleted. The psychological trick here is brilliant. 10 minutes feels completely doable to anyone, even if you have mobility issues, chronic fatigue, or limited stamina. You're not committing to a grueling marathon that might take all day. Just a short, focused sprint that you can absolutely handle. Between sessions, she did normal activities, made tea, watched a few minutes of her morning show, or simply rested. This kept her refreshed and prevented the decision fatigue that makes people give up and keep everything just to end the torture of choosing. Are you someone who tries to tackle entire rooms at once and then gets overwhelmed and quits? Tell me in the comments how that approach usually works out for you, because I guarantee Vivian's experience of burnout and frustration will sound painfully familiar. The third trick is brutal, but absolutely brilliant. Vivian pretended a complete stranger would be going through her belongings after she was gone. This isn't morbid thinking, it's actually liberating psychology. She asked herself one simple question about every item. Would a stranger understand why I kept this? Or would they think I was a hoarder? This mental shift changed everything because it completely removed the personal emotional charge from objects that had been paralyzing her for months. When you imagine someone else making decisions about your possessions, you suddenly see them with crystal clarity instead of through the fog of guilt, nostalgia, and obligation. That stack of magazines from 2003? A stranger would toss them in the recycling without a second thought. Those 47 decorative candles you never burn because you're afraid of fire hazards. Gone to someone who actually uses candles. Vivian applied this test to her sentimental items, which is where most seniors get completely stuck and abandon their decluttering efforts entirely. She had boxes and boxes of her children's elementary school artwork, absolutely sweet and meaningful, but would a stranger keep 200 crayon drawings and finger paintings? Obviously not. She kept the 10 most special pieces that truly captured her children's personalities and let go of the rest without guilt. The photo albums were the real test of this strategy. She had 23 albums filled with blurry vacation photos, duplicates, and pictures of people she could no longer identify. Using the stranger test, she realized that most of these photos meant nothing to anyone but her, and honestly, many didn't even mean much to her anymore. She condensed 23 albums into 3 beautiful ones that actually told her story and sparked joy instead of obligation. Here's what made this approach so incredibly powerful. When you remove the guilt and obligation from keeping things, you start keeping items because they genuinely add value to your current life, not because you feel you should keep them or because someone might judge you for letting them go. The stranger test also worked miracles for her wardrobe. Vivian had dresses from her teaching career that she hadn't worn in 15 years, including formal suits that no longer fit her lifestyle or body. Would a stranger keep professional clothes for someone who's been happily retired for over a decade? Obviously not. Out they went to help young teachers starting their careers. But the biggest revelation came with her extensive book collection. She had over 300 books she'd read once and would honestly never read again. Romance novels, outdated computer manuals, diet books from the 1980s, and self-help books that had served their purpose. The stranger test was brutally clear. Keeping books you'll never reread is just hoarding with an educational excuse attached. The test even worked for kitchen items. Would a stranger understand why she kept 12 spatulas, 8 can openers, or enough Tupperware to feed a small army? The honest answer helped her pare down to what she actually used. What's the one category of items you hold on to that would make absolutely no sense to a stranger? Drop a comment and be brutally honest. We're all guilty of keeping things that don't serve us anymore, but feel too guilty to release. Vivian's 4th trick addresses the biggest fear that keeps seniors surrounded by clutter for decades. What if I need this someday and can't replace it? She developed what she calls the replacement reality check, and it completely demolished most of her hoarding justifications. This reality check asks 3 brutal questions that expose the truth behind our just-in-case mentality. For every single item she hesitated to donate or discard, she forced herself to answer honestly. First, if I needed this exact item tomorrow, could I realistically get another one? Second, what would it actually cost me to replace this item in today's market? Third, in the last 5 years, how many times have I actually needed this specific item for anything important? This reality check systematically destroyed most of her just-in-case justifications that had been keeping her trapped. Take her collection of 12 screwdrivers scattered throughout various junk drawers. Could she get a screwdriver if she suddenly needed one? Yes, from any hardware store neighbor, or even the dollar store. Cost to replace the entire set? Under $15. Times she'd actually used more than one screwdriver in 5 years? Exactly 0. She kept one good one and donated the rest. The emotional breakthrough came when she realized that holding on to everything just in case was actually costing her more than occasionally replacing something would. She was paying the hidden costs of storage space, mental stress, cleaning time, and living in chaos for the theoretical savings of not having to buy a $5 replacement item once every few years. The math didn't make sense. Vivian applied this ruthless logic to her craft supplies. Boxes of yarn for knitting projects she'd never start, fabric scraps from sewing she no longer enjoyed, and art supplies that had literally dried up years ago. The reality check was harsh but liberating. If she suddenly wanted to take up watercolor painting again, buying fresh new supplies would give her better results than using crusty paints from 1987. The old supplies weren't preserving opportunities, they were taking up space. But the real revelation came when she applied this to furniture stored in her basement and garage. She had dining room chairs stored just in case she hosted a big dinner party, reality check time. She hadn't hosted more than 4 people in 8 years, and if she ever did want to host a larger gathering, she could rent chairs for less than the annual cost of storing them. Those chairs were costing her storage space for an event that would likely never happen. The kitchen appliances provided the most dramatic reality checks. That bread maker she'd used twice in 10 years? If she suddenly developed a passion for homemade bread, she could buy a better model for $20 at any thrift store. That juicer collecting dust since her 2015 health kick. Current replacement cost, $30 at Walmart. Meanwhile, these appliances were stealing her counter space and making her kitchen feel cramped and chaotic every single day. Her extensive tool collection got the same treatment. Specialty tools for home repairs she no longer did herself got donated to young homeowners who would actually use them. She kept basic tools and accepted that hiring professionals for major repairs was more practical at her age than keeping equipment she hadn't touched in years. Here's the uncomfortable truth that might sting. Most of what you're keeping just in case will never actually be needed. And the few things you might need someday are easily and cheaply replaceable in our modern world. What item are you holding on to that you could replace for under $20? Share it in the comments. Let's do some reality checking together and free ourselves from expensive clutter. The fifth trick saved Vivian's sanity and prevented the emotional burnout that destroys most decluttering attempts. She stopped treating all possessions as equally important and started investing her limited emotional energy only in items and decisions that truly mattered. This is absolutely crucial for seniors because you simply don't have unlimited energy to spend agonizing over every single object in your home. Vivian created what she called an energy investment scale from 1 to 10. And this system revolutionized her entire approach. Level 1 items got zero emotional energy, straight to donation or trash without any analysis or guilt. Level 10 items got careful consideration, proper storage solutions, and places of honor in her new life. Everything in between got sorted based on how much of her precious emotional energy it actually deserved. Her book collection provided the perfect example of this strategy in action. Romance novels she'd read once and would never touch again, rated a solid 1. Straight to the donation box without a second thought. Her late husband's technical manuals rated a 3. She spent 30 seconds deciding her adult children might want them before boxing them up. Her grandmother's handwritten cookbook with family recipes rated a 9. She carefully cleaned it, protected it in archival plastic, and gave it a place of honor in her new kitchen. This strategy prevented the emotional exhaustion that stops most decluttering attempts dead in their tracks. Instead of agonizing over every item equally and wearing herself out on decisions that didn't matter, Vivian learned to quickly identify what deserved her precious emotional energy and what absolutely didn't deserve even a moment's hesitation. The breakthrough came when she tackled her overwhelming bedroom closet. She had 67 pieces of clothing crammed into a space meant for maybe 30 items, but she only wore about 12 pieces regularly. Using her energy scale, most of her clothes rated 1 to 3 donate without drama, guilt, or extended internal debates. The few pieces she genuinely loved and felt great wearing rated 8 to 10. Keep and organize properly with good hangers and adequate space. This systematic approach cleared her entire closet in 45 minutes instead of the whole weekend she'd been dreading. But here's where the strategy revealed something fascinating. Vivian discovered that the items she'd been spending the most emotional energy worrying about were often the least important to her actual daily comfort and happiness. She'd been agonizing over decorative items that no one ever noticed while completely ignoring the functional clutter that was making her daily routines frustrating and inefficient. The garage became the ultimate test of her energy investment strategy. Decades of might-be-useful someday items rated mostly 1 to 2 on her energy scale. Out they went without ceremony. Garden tools for a garden she no longer maintained due to arthritis, camping gear for trips she no longer took, sporting equipment for activities she'd outgrown. She cleared 80% of her garage by simply refusing to invest emotional energy in items that didn't serve her current reality. The psychological relief was immediate and profound. When you stop spending emotional energy on objects that don't enhance your life, you suddenly have much more energy available for the things and people that actually do matter. Vivian found herself having energy for phone calls with friends, trying new recipes, and even considering dating again. Her paperwork got the same treatment. Tax returns older than 7 years rated a 1, shredded immediately. Important documents like insurance policies rated a 10, properly filed and organized. Everything in between got sorted quickly, based on actual legal and practical importance, rather than vague anxiety about, what if I need this someday? What items in your home are stealing your emotional energy without giving you anything positive in return? Tell me in the comments. Sometimes just naming these energy vampires out loud helps you realize they need to go immediately. Vivian's sixth trick is the one that surprised everyone, including her own adult children. She started making every decluttering decision based on who she was actively becoming, not who she used to be or who others expected her to remain. The future self-test asks one powerful question. Does keeping this item serve the person I'm growing into, or is it anchoring me to a past that's already complete? This approach was absolutely revolutionary because most seniors declutter based on guilt about the past or obligation to maintain old identities, instead of excitement about who they're becoming in this new chapter of life. Vivian completely flipped the script. Instead of asking, "How can I bear to get rid of this?" she started asking, "How does keeping this help me become the person I want to be in my remaining years?" Her extensive collection of business suits provided the first real test of this strategy. She'd been a high-powered executive for 30 years, and those suits represented decades of achievement, respect, and professional identity. But her future self was a relaxed retiree who volunteered at the animal shelter, took watercolor classes, and traveled to places she'd never had time to visit. Those power suits weren't serving her future, they were anchoring her to a past identity that was already beautifully complete. The book collection revealed another profound shift in thinking. She had multiple shelves filled with business and management books that had been absolutely crucial to her career success. But her future self wanted to learn about gardening, travel photography, and maybe even creative writing. Keeping outdated business books wasn't honoring her accomplished past. It was actually preventing her from embracing new interests and growth opportunities. Here's what made this approach so incredibly powerful. When you make decisions based on your future self instead of your past self, letting go becomes exciting instead of painful. Vivian wasn't losing her past achievements. She was making physical and mental room for her next adventure. The craft room transformation was the most dramatic example. Instead of keeping supplies for hobbies she'd honestly lost interest in years ago, she courageously cleared space for the art studio she'd been dreaming about since retirement. Out went the dusty sewing machine and mountains of fabric she'd never use. In came a proper easel, quality watercolor supplies, and natural light from a previously blocked window. But the most emotionally challenging moment came when she applied this test to her late husband's belongings. She realized that keeping everything exactly as he'd left it wasn't honoring his memory. It was preventing her from healing and moving forward into whatever remained of her own life. She kept the most meaningful items that genuinely brought comfort and happy memories, then donated the rest to help other families. Her husband would have wanted her to live, not to maintain a shrine. The kitchen makeover demonstrated the practical magic of this approach. Her past self had needed industrial-level cooking equipment for entertaining business colleagues and hosting large family gatherings. Her future self wanted a simple, peaceful space perfect for making tea, preparing light meals, and maybe growing a small indoor herb garden. She donated the commercial-grade pots and appliances, creating space for the cozy cooking environment that matched her new lifestyle. This test works because it gives you complete permission to evolve and change instead of remaining frozen in old patterns. You're not betraying your past accomplishments by making room for new experiences. You're honoring the growth and wisdom that come with age and changing circumstances. Who is your future self, and what does that emerging person need to thrive in the time you have left? Share your vision in the comments. Sometimes declaring your future identity publicly helps make that transformation real and gives you courage to release what no longer serves your evolution. Vivian's seventh and final trick is what sealed her complete transformation and prevented the regret that sabotages most decluttering efforts. She created meaningful completion ceremonies for each major category of items she released. This isn't just feel-good fluff. It's psychological necessity for seniors who are letting go of a lifetime of accumulated memories and meaningful possessions. Instead of sneaking items out in garbage bags like she was doing something shameful, Vivian made the conscious choice to honor what these possessions had meant to her life before saying a proper goodbye. This ceremonial approach transformed guilt into gratitude and prevented the second-guessing that makes people rescue items from donation bags at the last minute. For her extensive business wardrobe, she created a career celebration ceremony. She spent 10 minutes holding her favorite power suit and remembering her proudest professional moments, the promotion she'd earned, the difficult negotiations she'd won, the teams she'd led to success. Then she blessed those clothes to help another woman achieve her own professional dreams and donated them to a non-profit that helps women enter the workforce. The book ceremony became deeply meaningful. Instead of just dumping boxes at the library donation center, she wrote brief thank you notes to authors who had influenced her thinking. She'd slip these notes into the books. "Thank you for teaching me about leadership," or "This book helped me through my divorce. I hope it helps someone else." Future readers discovered these notes, and several contacted her to share how meaningful they found her messages. But the photo ceremony was the most emotionally powerful transformation. Instead of just dumping duplicate photos in the trash like unwanted garbage, she held what she called a memory celebration, where she thanked each batch of pictures for capturing precious moments, then released them, knowing the memories live permanently in her heart, not in cardboard boxes taking up closet space. This ceremonial approach created genuine closure instead of lingering regret. Without these rituals, Vivian found herself second-guessing decisions and wanting to rescue items from donation bags. The ceremonies made each decision feel final, peaceful, and actually meaningful rather than like a loss. Her adult children's artwork received the most elaborate ceremony. She photographed every piece she wasn't keeping, created a beautiful digital album called My Children's Masterpieces, then ceremonially thanked each drawing for bringing joy before releasing the physical copies. Her adult children were moved to tears when she shared the digital album. They suddenly had more access to their childhood creativity than ever before, and the memories were preserved forever without requiring physical storage space. The most surprising ceremony was for items that were broken, worn out, or no longer functional. Instead of feeling guilty about things that were damaged beyond repair, Vivian created retirement ceremonies where she thanked these faithful items for their years of service before letting them rest in peace. She thanked her worn-out favorite sweater for keeping her warm through countless winters before letting it go to textile recycling. Even kitchen items got ceremonial treatment. She thanked her mother's mixing bowls for helping create thousands of family meals before passing them to a young neighbor just starting to cook. She held her wedding china one last time, remembering dinner parties and holiday celebrations, before donating it to help another family create their own special memories. The most profound ceremony was for items connected to her late husband. She created a love celebration, where she held each meaningful item, shared a specific memory out loud, then decided whether keeping it brought comfort or pain. Items that brought comfort stayed. Items that brought pain were blessed and released to help other families. By the end of 48 hours, Vivian had completed dozens of small but meaningful ceremonies. Each one reinforced that she wasn't losing her past or dishonoring memories. She was celebrating her life's journey and consciously making room for whatever adventures remained ahead. Have you ever struggled with guilt when letting go of sentimental items? Tell me in the comments what kind of ceremony might help you release things with love and gratitude instead of shame and loss. When the moving truck arrived exactly 48 hours later, Vivian was completely ready. But the real transformation wasn't her empty rooms. It was her newfound sense of freedom and possibility. She had packed only what truly served her future self, donated 12 truckloads to families in need, and said proper goodbyes to a lifetime of accumulated memories. 3 months later, Vivian called me from her new apartment. She told me something I'll never forget. I thought I was just clearing out my house, but I was actually clearing out my life for the next chapter. She's now teaching art classes at the senior centre, volunteering at 3 different organisations, and yes, dating for the first time in 20 years. The 7 ruthless tricks didn't just help her declutter, they helped her discover who she was becoming. That's the real secret. Decluttering isn't about getting rid of things, it's about making room for the life you actually want to live. If Vivian's story resonates with you, hit that like button right now and share this video with someone who needs to hear it today. These 7 tricks work, but only if you actually use them. Which trick will you start with? Tell me in the comments. I respond to every single one. And if you're serious about creating your own senior reset, click that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. I share new strategies every week that are specifically designed for people who are ready to make their next chapter their best chapter.